I got multiple moments going here. Let me sit back in my nice cushion chair because we're going to have a real conversation. And I don't want to have any accidents while I'm on live trying to sit back in this chair. Hey, everybody. How are you? We are finally on. We are finally on. My husband said probably having this much difficulty because somebody really needed to hear this. This is not an easy conversation for me to have. So let me get started by introducing myself. I'm Dr. Tori J. I am the founder and CEO of the Fatherless Generation Foundation. I will be looking in both places as I am doing Instagram Live here and Facebook Live here. This is a conversation that many of you have inboxed me about. And then on a couple of my Facebook Lives, many of you have, or a couple of you have said, hey, what about toxic mothers? What about toxic mothers? And I didn't really want to have the conversation. I'm not going to lie to you. This is not going to be an easy conversation for me. So I got real comfortable in my whole Adidas gear so I can be comfortable. I ain't putting no makeup on for y'all because I'm prone to cry during this conversation. And I just want to be able to just be open and honest about my journey, as well as giving you some pointers. And I want you to chime in and dialogue as well. This is not just about my toxic mother. I don't even want to have that conversation really, but I know that in order for individuals to heal and to grow, I have to share my story and share my testimony. So let's get into this. Let's talk about toxic mothers. I have my iPad mini here with some notes on it that I think are important to delve into so that we can define what a toxic mother is, what that relationship looks like for us, and really dig into some of the characteristics of a toxic mother so that you can kind of pinpoint maybe that's your situation with your mother, or maybe that's a situation that you have with your children. Who knows? I'll give you a little backstory before I get into the definition of toxic mother. I witnessed growing up my grandmother being a very toxic mother to my own mother. So my grandmother was not very nice to my mother, and growing up, I knew there was something very off about their relationship. However, that didn't stop my grandmother from loving me and caring for me, but it was painful to watch my mother endure a lot of what she endured coming from her own mother. Wasn't like I could help her, wasn't like I knew the backstory. And as a kid, you don't really say anything. You hug your mother, you love on her because you see it happening to her. I will tell you that I don't believe I had a toxic relationship with my mother as a child. It turned into that when I became an adult and tried to do some of the things that I'm going to talk to you about concerning how do you maneuver and move forward with a toxic mother. So let's go here. Let's talk about a toxic mother. And if you want to even hear my mother's journey, know that she allowed me to do a Facebook Live with her a while ago. And it was where I was able to interview her, and it broke down how she got into some of the relationships she got into, how she became a single mom and all those things. So you can go to YouTube, and I know it's on our Facebook Live somewhere, but it's called My Single Mom's Journey. And that really shares some of the things. We both cried on that video, and I hope I don't do the same here. However, let's talk about what a toxic mother is. So first things first, you having a toxic mother has nothing to do with you. It's not your fault. It's not your fault. So what toxic mothers do, they constantly criticize, they have controlling behavior, guilt tripping and manipulation, humiliation and sabotage, invalidation of your emotions, passive aggressive behavior, disrespectful of your personal boundaries, and it's a very one-sided relationship. That is the challenge when you have a toxic mother. Those are the things that she's going to basically unleash on you on a regular basis. So that you can just fall in line. And falling in line is allowing her toxic behavior to control you and to dictate everything that life is supposed to bring. So I want to ask you guys, if you are listening, I'm watching people jump on. I see my husband's on here. Can't see all the people who've jumped on. It's right here. I see Sons of the Sea TV is on here on my Instagram. I see James Pretty Boys Production is on. I want you guys to put in the comment box, if you believe you have a toxic mother, put 1. If you don't think you have a toxic mother, put 2. And I'm not here to make you have a toxic mother. That's what you need to understand. This is not to mom bash tonight. This is to help some people who are going through this situation to kind of navigate the situation, right? Okay, I see over here, James has put a 1 in the box. How many? Okay, Sons of the Sea has put a 1 in the box. Facebook, y'all behind. How many of you believe you have a toxic mother? If you think you have a toxic mother, put 1 in the box. If you don't, put 2. Okay, Sharon put 1 in the box over here. I want to see who chimes in. Remember, toxic mothers, I'm reading it to you from my notes. Constant criticism, controlling behavior, guilt tripping and manipulation, humiliation and sabotage, invalidation of your emotions, passive aggressive behavior, disrespectful of boundaries, and one-sided relationship. So let's go in. Let's have this moment. You can't change your mom's behavior, right? I'll admit, I'm 45. That makes my mama this year 68. She not changing, okay? We want our parents to heal. We want them to grow. We want them to become aware of the behavior that they have. But what if they don't? What does that mean for you? What that means for you is you have to be the person who changes. And what I mean by that is, if you're going to change, I see KB over here. She's got a 1 as well. Thank you guys for being honest. And for those who don't know, for those of you who are just tuning in, I see some are just tuning in. We're talking about toxic moms tonight. And as we're talking about toxic moms, this is not a mom bashing session. This is an opportunity for those who have gone through relationships with toxic moms and who are going through toxic relationships with their mothers to help them navigate that relationship, move forward, and even heal in many different ways. I don't want people to think that this is an opportunity to bash our mothers. I don't allow people to bash dads on my page, so I'm not going to allow you to bash your mama either. If it is about the toxic relationship with your mother, if I'm going to get into this and tell you, they probably not going to change, right? It's not a thing. And if it's not a thing, how do you continue to have a relationship with a toxic mother? I will tell you, there have been times when I've had to cut my mother off. And we just so happen to be in one of those seasons. I have not actually spoken to my mother over the phone in over a year now. That is not for somebody to ridicule me or say, oh, you a Christian, and the scripture says a lot of things, but the scripture does not tell me to allow somebody to have an onslaught of criticism and different tools that they use to break me down as a human being. A lot of people used to tell me, oh, Tori, you're a minister, and how dare you cut your mother off? So I would feel guilty. Guilt trip. I would feel guilty, and I would go back and allow her to hit me. Now, when it's good, and many of you will know this, I want you guys, when I say this, if you agree with it, put a thumbs up in the comment box. When your relationship with your mother is good, it's good. But when it's bad, it's all bad. It's not consistently toxic for me. It's toxic at certain times. It's almost like it's good in order for me to be lured in order to hit me over the head. That's what it feels like. It feels like that's what the purpose is. And so, oh, I see Mark Lynch over here. He said 1, 2, 1, 2. So I'm assuming he thinks he has one, he doesn't. He says diagnosed bipolar. Great moments and horrible moments. Yeah, Mark, that's exactly what I'm talking about. When it's good, it's good. And when it's bad, oh my God, it's bad. And that's the part, okay. See, KB is saying the same thing. She's like, thumbs up. It's not all bad. It's bad because at a certain point, maybe maybe mama's having a bipolar moment. I can tell you my mother is diagnosed bipolar. Some people don't want me to talk about that. Some people don't want me to share that part of the journey. I'm not going to sit on here and be fake and fraudulent. I'm going to be honest about who I am and where I come from. I will say it again. I don't remember growing up in a situation where I felt my mother was toxic. My childhood was absolutely amazing. I don't remember having anything that I thought was out of the ordinary relationship with my mother. I think we had the normal relationship until I became an adult. And there were things that you can't control me. I'm not going to do it the way you want me to do it. And I'm going to tell you guys, I allowed my mother to control me till I was about 26. And I realized I could just, it's my life. But I was 26 years old. My mother was still calling the shots, y'all. Still. I don't know if some of that had to do with I was still on her medical insurance. I'm not really sure. Sorry, I'm gonna crack some jokes in here because this is not easy. But I'm being honest, I'm not really sure if that's why I allowed her to call the shots. Taisha even gave a thumbs up. It's good when it's good and it's bad when it's bad. So let's get into some of these characteristics. Constant criticism. Okay, so let me tell you, my mother would be the kind of person that if I showed up and my hair wasn't quite right, she'd be like, "Ooh, that's not." And she pinpointed. My brother had a friend one time. He was dating this girl. See, I see a lot of hearts on that one. And I think he really liked the girl. I'm pretty sure he did. And my mother made fun of the fact that the girl had these little beads on her sweater, like her sweater was balled up and it was an issue. Because my mother's very much so meticulous and she has this little thing. I have one too, to be honest with you. And it buzzes all the fuzz things off of your sweater. But my mother made fun of my brother's girlfriend because she had this stuff on her sweater. She's in college. She don't care about that. She didn't care about that at all. Also, KB, she said, yep, that's when it became a problem, when I became an adult. Okay, see, I'm learning something. Maybe this is when you find out your parent is toxic, because maybe they weren't toxic when you were younger because they were able to control you. But anyway, the constant criticism. So my mother would say little things that would make me, I would then, if my dress wasn't, that dress is a little too big or it's a little too tight. And so you're conscious now of the dress being a little too big or a little too tight or whatever it is. So now it's in your mind. And so you can't shake it from your mind because your mother has now criticized you. As a child, it says, this right here says, as a child, you are likely to have been criticized often and severely, but even subtly. Subtle forms of criticism would include apparently loving, teasing in a way, labeling, oh, that little lazy child over there. Oh, that little blah, blah, blah. So they're giving you little labels that make you feel insecure or conscious about yourself. That's a way criticism comes as well. So the control freak is number 2. Love, can you put these in the box for me? And I'll pin them. Number 1 is constant criticism. Hi, everybody. Okay, so Facebook has a title, so they know what we're talking about. Instagram cannot. So Instagram, we're talking about toxic mothers tonight. I just want you guys to know. So as we're getting into it. So number 1 is constant criticism. The second one is control freak. Controlling tendencies. And they tend to accompany constant criticism. Often strong, even overpowering personality and leadership qualities. Let me tell y'all something. My mother's community, my community where I'm from, loves her. Loves, loves, love, love, loves. They have no problem with her. People who have a problem with her, have a problem with her. People who love her, love her. And once again, I'm not here to change anybody's mind about that. Hold on, Mark, you said, is it when they can begin to lose control and you are realizing that you don't need them? That's a good one. That's very much so. That could be the issue. So when you have a control freak, I want to stay on task. I know I keep looking at the screen. So when a person is a control freak, if they cannot get you to do what they want to do, they have a tone in their voice, you know that they're disapproving, so on and so forth. This is the note that I want you guys to pay attention to, because this is something that happened to me often. So when your parent is disapproving of your actions and they talk to you like you're trash or garbage, put a 1 in the box if it's paralyzing for you. Maybe you find yourself in depression. You find yourself, you can't move like you was moving yesterday. And I'm saying it like that. Put a 1 in the box if that's you. I've done that. I used to do that all the time. I used to do it all the time. My mother would say something to me, and the challenge is, hey, Glenn. The challenge would be, I didn't know if I was coming or going. And if I don't watch myself, she can still do that to me. It's one of the reasons why I've had to take a Selah moment from her. Do not feel guilty in setting boundaries with your parents. Do not feel guilty in setting boundaries with your mother. Your mother doesn't get to dictate to you who you are and how you move and control you and tell you and call you all types of things and tell you things about yourself in order to get you to do what they want you to do. So if you have that kind of parent, you need to kind of figure out some steps that you need to take. And I'm going to give you some at the end of it. Several people, Pamela says she's got a 1. She has that paralyzing feeling. And I'm going to tell you, in the Black community, we have been taught to let our mothers say anything they want to say to us. Anything. And we got to be respectful. And we got to take it. I'm not telling you to be disrespectful. But what I am going to tell you is this. You don't have to take it. You ain't got to cuss her smooth out. I don't remember what happened. Vark was here. Did I cuss her out when I stopped talking to her, Vark?
You've used some choice words.
I want to be honest. I want him to be honest.
But they were in retaliation to what she was saying to you.
And see, and that's the part I hate. Oops. I don't want to be a person. And look, can I be vulnerable? Can I be 100% honest with y'all tonight? My mother has called me all types of names, and she will get on here, and if she ever sees this, she'll tell you it didn't happen. It did. I don't have to lie about it. And so I used to be the child who would retaliate. I would be the adult, I would say. I'm not gonna call it, see, even then, we even morph into, I do, and I'm gonna say y'all do too. You morph back into this childlike behavior, even when you are an adult, because your parents have this controlling way about them. So let's go into the controlling way that took place at Essence Festival and why I might not go back to Essence ever again, just playing, but it was tough. So here I am at Essence Festival 2018. My mother and I decide we've got a rough relationship, but what we're gonna do is we're gonna do mother-daughter trips. We did one the year before, took her to DC. I had to work in lobby, and we spent 4 days together, I think it was. We did a road trip, came back. She acted crazy when she got back, but the trip was good. We get to Essence Festival, and because we decided, okay, that wasn't so bad. So we'll do it again. I don't know what it is about me, y'all, but I love a little torture. And I'm laughing, but it's hard. So this is the control freak. This is where we are. So we are dealing with the lines at the Essence Festival. So anyone who's been to the Essence Festival or who hasn't been, let me describe it to you. Essence Festival is a big event every year, 4th of July in New Orleans. It is for the magazine, the African American magazine, and it is an amazing event. It's great. However, I don't do lines very well. And I really wanted to deal with a lot of the speaking and the people talking and the information. My mother liked those little lines where you roll in, you're just doing the little turnstile thing, and you're getting these bags. Cute little bags, they're plastic bags, nothing fancy really. A couple of them are nice, but nothing crazy. My mother is in the Walmart line. They have these beautiful crowns because that year it's called Rain, and then they have this really cool bag. Well, I'm gonna tell you, I'm a strategist. So I'd already planned that when everyone was at church on Sunday, I was gonna get in line and get my bags real quick. That's what I was gonna do. And I ended up doing that. But my mother is in the line because I walked up from somewhere else. My mother is in the line. And my mother sees me and I see her and I'm like waving and she's like, come over here, get in line with me. And I'm like, no, I don't want to get in the line because she had gone through, she'd been there for a minute. And I was like, no, I'm going to wait right here. She was like, no, come get in the line. And I was like, no, I'm good. My mother says, get over here and get in the line. My 44-year-old self has now morphed into a 12-year-old. 12-year-old goes to get in the line. I'm cutting the line, y'all. Guess what happens when I walk past security? They almost body slammed me. They literally twisted my arm in front of thousands of people. My husband can tell you. My husband can tell you. that I ended up going to the back of the wall in the Essence Festival. I'm calling him on the phone and I'm crying like a 12-year-old at 44 years old, because the control freak in my mother decided that she was going to demand that I cut this line. You don't have authority over the line. And so that's what it is. Mark, what did you say? I'm not allowed to talk to Tori's mom without her. No, that's true. For those, yeah. Glenn, that's true. There's no question about it. She tried to call him about a month ago. Was it a month ago? Mm-hmm. And tried to start some stuff. And I had to show my husband. She was texting him one thing and texting me another thing. She was, God bless you. The Lord loves you. I'm praying for you. The blood of Jesus. And on mine, she told me, shut the fuck up, y'all. On mine, she called me a bitch. Oh, no, she called herself that.
No, she called you that.
She called me that. Okay, see, you remember. So let's just be clear. It's night and day. And I don't like to share all of this, but I know I need to, just because it's what needs to be said. Toxic mothers are who develop us into the frail, scared. I was very scared. Oh, Sano said, I'm sorry. It's okay. We have to embrace our journeys for what they are and learn from them. It's still hurtful. I told my husband today, I wish I could have a relationship with my mother and my brother. But that's part of the healing process, because the healing process, I'm gonna give you one of the tips now, but we'll get into it later. You have to set up boundaries, that if they ignore your boundaries, you go to therapy. And in therapy, they're gonna give you tools. And guess what my therapist said? You gotta stay away from your mother. This is not a good person for you, right? Who is this?
That's the conversation with your mother.
Oh, I'm not showing them that.
Okay.
My husband.
No, this is what she was saying to me.
That's what she was saying, yeah. And so Kay said, that's my mother. She'll say it never happened as well. Okay. They will act like to everyone else what you're saying is not real. So my husband, you know, he would take my side, but he never got to experience it because I was protecting him. So I thought, but later on, Glenn, I realized I might have been protecting her from him, because my husband ain't no punk. And so it might not go that well if she tries to say anything crazy. My mother has tried to control my friendships. How many of you have had a mom who tried to control who wanted to be friends with you because they didn't want you to have any support and they didn't want you to have any friends around? Put a 1 in the box if that's you. Because that's that master manipulator and even sabotager. That's someone who sabotages relationships. I will tell you right now, my mother has sabotaged my relationship with my younger brother and multiple friends over the years. And you just kind of wait on the sidelines and hopefully they get it. Sano said 1. Sano said he has a mother who does that. It's not okay for this to happen to us. And I've always had issues reconciling the amazing mother that I grew up with to the mother that I have now. It's been tough reconciling that, because she has been the person who made me who I was. She was the person, Sano, we're gonna get into that in a minute. She has been the person who I know if I didn't have her in my life, I wouldn't be the person I am. That's what KV said on hers. She said it didn't happen until she was an adult. I think, Vark, you're right. Brian and Sharon are saying 1. This is a real issue. And I realized how much of it was an issue when I made that post the other day about toxic mothers being just as bad as absent fathers. And it almost went viral on my page. I mean, it just went nuts on my page. And I realized this is something that really, really needed to be talked about. So let's go ahead and talk about going to the master guilt tripper and manipulator. Oof. So we know what manipulation is. It's like Kay said on here. We'll say something happened and they'll say that didn't happen. She'll exert her authority in a situation on you and manipulate you into thinking that it wasn't what you said it is, or that you're saying that it was, or whatever that is. And then they turn it and blame you for what took place. And she knows very darn good well that it was her, not you. That's the master guilt tripper and manipulator. So it says, all these behaviors and traits are inherently manipulative, but some mothers display alarming skills in the dark art of negative manipulation. She actively works to make you feel guilty or responsible for her bad behavior, or the one that I love that's not in my notes, but I'm going to say it out loud, Her emotions. I know that a lot of single moms especially make their children feel guilty and responsible for their emotions. So they will manipulate you with their emotions. They will manipulate you with the fact that they're alone and they don't have anyone in their lives. Sano said on here, he said, my daughter's mother is doing this right now. Can I tell you, I said earlier in this video when I first started this, that you can go on YouTube, you can see it. It's super emotional. My mother cries from the onset. My grandmother was a toxic mother. Do you hear me? So what Sano is saying over here is now his daughter's mother is doing this. This stuff is generational. I don't believe I'm a toxic person in that way, and I don't believe I would be toxic towards my children. However, I can't tell you that it doesn't make me nervous, and it's not something that runs through my mind. So I have to be super cautious of how I maneuver. And I have to be very well. Bart, can you put in there, I'm sorry, number 3 is master guilt tripper and manipulator for me. Master guilt tripper and manipulator. And then this is the other part that makes it hard. So if she can't manipulate or guilt trip you, she'll get other people. Because guess what other people are thinking? When your mother says something about you, guess what they're thinking? Well, that's your mother, so she gotta be telling the truth. That's your mother, right? And if it's her mother knows her. And so her mother knows things about her that we don't know. That right there, that's been the hardest part for me. The hardest part for me in that part of my day-to-day journey is people believe my mother. I can tell you right now, the people who don't believe my mother, her past roommates. Because they've seen some stuff, so they don't believe it. And not just about me, just about how she moves in general. Saying, oh, you all up in my thing here, because there's something I'm going to talk about a narcissistic behavior and a pattern that comes in one of these traits here. Let's go to humiliator and saboteur. This can be subtle and quite brutally direct. So the subtlety of it all, I think, is to the outside world, but the directness of the humiliation and the sabotage is direct, is brutal to the person experiencing it, no matter how subtle it is. This mother will regularly make negative comments or quote unquote jokes in front of family or your friends without regard of how her words may affect you. And if you confront her, then the toxic mother's reaction is usually to admonish you from being overly sensitive and unable to take a joke. Or they just act like it didn't happen altogether. How many of you have had that? Put a 1 in the box. If you had a parent who acted like you didn't, like it was, nah, that didn't happen. Like, oh, you too sensitive. I'm just playing. See, Kay even says, yes, my grandmother was toxic. My mother was a toxic mother to my mother as well. This is genetic. This is genetic. Mine talks about all of her children to one another. Oh yeah, because she then tries to get the gang situation. I know that feeling too, Sharon. So let's go here. 1, I see 1. So people have the humiliating, like it seems like the patterns are real. It's almost like, it's like you're in war, and if one thing doesn't happen, then they're gonna hit you with the next thing. So let's give the next thing. Invalidates negative emotions and doesn't even allow you to have emotions. Doesn't even allow them.
Go to Brian, baby. Brian got something on his mind. He needs to say something.
Where is he?
Brian,
okay.
He said some of the things that his mother is saying, that his kid's mom is saying. I'm curious. What are they, Brian?
Okay. I gotta keep scrolling. He said, you and I need to speak. The things my kid's mother has admitted to and has now said would blow your mind. So Brian, go ahead and put it in what you can, because I'm a proponent that you shouldn't be putting certain things in the box, right? I hate when people post about their baby mama stuff online and that kind of thing. Sano, this is narcissistic behavior. I'm going to tell you that right off the bat. It is narcissistic behavior. We don't want to call our parents narcissists. It's really odd and it's really weird, but it is. Tasha on here, says that it's generational curses. If you see Brian post, baby, just read it out loud before I can see it, because it comes up a little slower for me. It starts at the root. Come on, Tasha. It starts at the root. And I have heard through the grapevine that my great-grandmother was toxic to my grandmother. So what is it with women? What is it with us that we become toxic to one another and then raise up another child in toxicity? What is that? So how do you invalidate a child's emotions? You belittle them, you criticize them for expressing unhappiness. And they're expressing unhappiness with how they're being treated by their mother. So when they do that, you then criticize them. They express anger towards her, and it's not allowed or punished. And it's punished with this severe passive-aggressive behavior. Can we talk about our mothers being passive-aggressive? We're going to get there. That's number 6. That's number 6. But all of this is likely to result in making you feel like you had better not have shared any negative emotions with her or said a thing about it at all. Oh, Tasha said, I wrote a book about this. Okay, Tasha, I'm going to give you the right to put the link in the comment box for your book, because I don't think there's enough books about toxic mothers out here, and I'm not going to be one to write one. I just don't even want to go there. It's too much.
Got something from Brian.
You got something from Brian. Okay, read it for me.
She has admitted to telling our kids that I'm sick, and the only way they can see me is if see me more.
Is if you were right, if I do anger management and seek therapy. This is just one of the things she's admitted to. Yeah, that's, what does it say?
Another one. She has made a new accusation that I cannot speak of here.
I'm sure. That's why I told you I don't want you to say anything on here, because I'm a strong proponent that you should not put those things on social media, because they can be used against you in court. And if y'all talking about this First Amendment, get out of here. Don't post that stuff. I don't want you posting on my page, because I don't want to be summoned to court, and none of my stuff to be summoned to court. And I just think your children may run across it, and you never want that to happen, or your children's friends. You don't know who could potentially run across it. Sharon says, I strive every day not to be like my mother. I used to look in the mirror and say, I will never be like my mother. I used to pray. It was an affirmation that I prayed, simply because I wanted to be better than my mother. And I can tell you, once again, when the relationship with my mother is good, child, we out partying, we shopping, we shopping. That's one of my favorite things to do with my mother. When we went to go to the Essence Festival, I thoroughly enjoyed going to the different museums in Montgomery with her on our drive to the Essence Festival. I had an awesome time, and it was awesome. But when I started setting up boundaries, that's when it started to get bad. Sano over on Instagram says, a person that can't speak is a person that can't have a conversation, and it's always an argument to them. He done said a mouthful there. Because you can't have a conversation with this person because they're, your emotions are not valid to them. So they're going to look at you and say, nope, that's on you, or you did that, or whatever it is they're going to say. I want to get to some of these comments, and then I'll go to number 6, which is passive aggressive. She said, I've heard the same. My mother has a horrible relationship with my grandmother. When my grandmother passed away, I found out my grandmother did not get along with my great grandmother. Come on, y'all. How we break this stuff? She said, my son got 40 years old at 17 years old. Am I reading that right?
My son got 40 years old, and at 17 years old, it took us writing a book to learn
a lot about myself. Okay. I'm telling you, Tasha, put the link in there so people can know. The best friends, until I do or I say something she doesn't like, then I'm the worst. They don't like boundaries. Okay, so the best friend is in here. That's one of my notes. Oh, is that what she's saying? Yeah. Yikes. Okay, we're going to get to this. Passive aggressive is number 6. Can you type that in there, babe? That passive aggressive is that nonverbal communication when you know you done messed up. What's that movie? You know you done messed up. They didn't use the word messed up, but that's what I think about when I've set a boundary or I've done something. I know I messed up. And I can tell immediately by the response that I've now messed up. This mother will not outwardly express her anger or resentment towards you, but she might, for instance, deliberately delay. She might be late for something, an important appointment, not show up for something. Y'all want me to tell you another thing of passive aggressive behavior? How about she just don't show up for your wedding? For those of you who are watching from Kalamazoo, just so you know, my mother did not come to my wedding. And I know she walking around telling all y'all, oh, look at my daughter's pictures and at her wedding. And y'all think she came to the wedding. She didn't. She had a free ride, y'all. You know what she told me? That's the same weekend as my jazz festival I go to every year. So she didn't come. And I'm putting her on blast tonight. And I don't mean to, but if we're going to talk about toxic mothers, maybe she'll see it and realize she is one. Because I don't know what else to say. But hey, Nalini, how are you? Can't have a conversation with the other person when the other person is being hostile. You can't. Natasha, we want to talk about this whole 40 years in prison. She said the book is called Mama, I Should Have Listened, A Voice of Pain and Power. I was one with the passive aggressive behavior because I didn't want what I was doing, or I didn't know. Maybe she's saying I didn't know what I was doing. Sharon says, you're talking about my mom. We shouldn't show up for a lot of stuff. She wouldn't show up for a lot of stuff, and it hurts. It hurt really bad, y'all. It hurt so bad. I talked about it. I don't remember how often, but it was passive aggressive behavior. Hey, Sonia. She said I didn't want to face what I was doing. Tasha, tell us what you were doing. I appreciate when people show up on here who not only have the experience, but maybe they were the person doing it and they realize that they shouldn't be doing it. And I want to say, Sano here says, I was a free-spirited person back then, and I had a long time to find that part of me again. Oh, so you were a very open, free person, and then this relationship and this narcissistic behavior has now kind of changed you. I will tell you, it will change who you are. You will not be the person that God called you to be. It will take you some places, and you have to cut them off in order to find yourself. Someone said to me the other day, they said, is it a bad thing that I feel better when I'm not around my mother? Is it bad that I say that? And I was like, no, if that's your journey, that's your journey. You should be able to say that if that's what it is. The worst thing about toxic mothers is you absolutely cannot tell them what they did wrong. They want to fight if you tell them the truth. But they sure want to tell you the truth. My mother she keep it like it is. She keep it 100 all the time. But if you keep it 100 with her, it's hell to pay. But she is the person who, she does not want you to tell her like it is. So we got passive aggressive. Number 7, can we go here? Because we've talked about it off and on. Disrespects your personal boundaries. Disrespects personal boundaries. How many of you read that book called Boundaries? Put a number 1 in the box. And there's different ones. So I'm not even going to ask you which one. There's boundaries in marriage, boundaries in dating, boundaries in school, boundaries at work. And then there's just plain boundaries. How many of you have read Boundaries? Put a 1 in the box. If you have not read Boundaries, put a 2 in the box. Shay says, this is a cycle in our family. My grandmother wasn't there for my mom. My mom wasn't there for me and my siblings, but I broke the cycle. I've been in my stepdaughter's life now for 9 years, and I've not ever been there. And have never not been there. I'm sorry. I'm scrolling and I lost it. Oh, Tasha said, I thought I was perfect and I wasn't aware of my passive aggressive. Let me go back. I want to thank her for sharing that. The young lady that I just read, Shay, before I move on, because she said a mouthful in the first line, the first sentence. This is a cycle in our family. A lot of girls learn how to parent and mother from their mothers. Santa over here said number 1 as well. We learn how to parent from our mothers. And if we learn how to parent from our mothers, I think we then have the same thing that Tasha's now talking about. So Shay, thank you for saying that. I thought I was perfect and I wasn't aware of my passive aggressive behavior until my son got time in prison and told me through writing, you can't heal what you don't reveal. Tasha, preach. You have to reveal it. And you have to, as a mother, if you're listening to this and your children come to you with stuff, you have to be willing to listen to them, because you are causing more harm than their absent father. That's what the Post said this week. You're causing more harm than their absent father. And we know how much harm absent fathers cause. You're causing more harm. And so you need your children to tell you the truth. You need them to speak truth into the situation so that you guys can go forward and have a great life. And you have to be able to receive it. And that's just one of the tools that I'll give you. But these personal boundaries, some people said 2. I'm going to come back to what Shay said again. 2. I see. Babe, do you see? I'm sorry. Mine doesn't scroll. Oh, see, I'm scrolling too fast.
What are you asking?
Yep, 2. It sounds like too many of you have not read the book Boundaries. So if you have a toxic mother situation, if you don't have a toxic mother situation, you need to read the book Boundaries. I will put the link in on this. I'll put the link in this feed or on the page just for you to be able to get the book. It is a great book to read. It helps you be able to set up boundaries. It helps you be able to understand that boundaries are for you, not just for the other person. I mean, so often we're like, oh, I don't want this to happen because I'm going to set a boundary. It's like, child, they're not responding to a temper tantrum. Boundaries are how adults move. And boundaries are said straight face, flat footed. I'm not shaking and I'm not trembling. I will not move from this position. And if you violate this position, then this is the consequence that's going to happen to you. And you have to make the consequence matter to the person. It has to matter. Let's go here. I want to see. Brian says, my own parents have tried to talk with my kid's mother, told her to quit with her crap, and now she's attacking my parents. Sad part is my parents are my glorified babysitter when I currently visit with my kids. Now, let me tell you, Brian, you can't break her from this behavior because it's learned behavior. My husband and I were talking earlier today, and I was just asking the question out loud, like, how hard is it to break from tradition that you learned growing up? A lot of people get married and it's super hard because they've learned some things in their childhood that is tradition, that is generational curses, and don't know it. It's dysfunctional family stuff and they don't know it. And so it being dysfunctional and it being whatever it is, you don't know it, and then you take it on as if it's truth. And you're taking it on as if it's truth when it ain't really truth, right?
Okay, so what should Brian do then?
Can we?
I'm sorry, you just made a great point.
Yes.
And so did Brian, but
Mm-hmm.
the crap is still going up.
The crap is still going on. So Brian has to set up boundaries. And I don't know what Brian's, I know Brian. I know exactly who Brian is. I've seen Brian multiple times at different conferences for Americans for Shared Parenting and Father's Rights conferences. I don't know what his custody order states, and I don't want him to get into too much of that here on Facebook Live because I don't want it to harm him later on. I'm very cautious of that. That's a very private conversation. But the sad part, his parents are now, being attacked. This person, you've got to show this behavior more and more in court. One of the benefits that I had recently was being an expert witness in a case and in a hearing out of state. I won't get into the details. But I'm gonna tell you, it was tough watching that gentleman go through the barrage from the opposing party, from the mother, okay, from the mother who is now trying to move. She's trying to relocate, passive aggressive behavior, relocation, taking the child 6 hours away. There's no direct flights. How do you get to him? Oh, the child has to drive 3 hours in the car with mom and 3 hours with dad, and then 3 hours back. That's Friday, and then on Sunday he got to do it again. Like, come on. And it's crazy behavior, and so you have to show a pattern. And in order to show a pattern, he has to keep record. He has to keep record that she's doing these kind of things. And I know Brian is alienated from a conversation that I heard him. I think he had it from up on the stage. I believe he's an alienated parent. And I know that it gets really tough, and we're kind of having a sidebar. This is something that and just to kind of give a plug, on Thursdays now at 1 p.m., I'm going to start putting resources, meaning resources at 1 p.m. on Thursdays resources. So that resource means I'm going to have Facebook Lives with my private investigator that I work with, the attorneys that I work with, the therapists that I work with, anybody who I think you guys can utilize or you can learn something from. I'm going to bring them on because I know it gets super expensive to try to go to court and deal with toxic mothers, right? You're not only dealing with your own personal toxic mother, you're dealing with the toxic mother of your children. And that's what Brian is talking about. Brian is talking about the toxic mother that happens to be more than likely bipolar, I think he said, and a narcissist based on the relationship that she has now created between him and his children. Brian and I need to have a very private conversation. And I know my husband's over here like, well, what should he do? We need to have a private conversation, but he's got to keep a good track record. And in keeping that track record, he then needs to be able to go to court and present it in a way that causes him to win.
Gotcha.
And more than likely, he's going to have some type of attorney to do that. And that's money. So I've got to figure out how to help Brian where he is.
Well, that's the answer I was looking for.
That was the answer you were looking for? He's such a mess. Okay, Sharon says, I feel so much better for the first time in my life. I'm a believer, and her sister has tried to tell me I'm not getting into the kingdom because I've distanced myself, which you're gonna make me cry, which has now made me feel guilty. It's hard to cut someone you love off, but I honestly feel better. Sharon, I'm gonna tell you right now, people have used the fact that you're a minister of the gospel. How dare you cut your mama off? This ain't the first time I ain't talked to her in a year. This is just, and people act like that means the end of the world. Oh, you only got one mama. That's my favorite line. Yeah, and truthfully, my mother only has one daughter. And she has to understand that it hurts me tremendously not to have a relationship with them. But it hurts me more to have a toxic relationship with her. And go ahead.
Tell them about your therapist and pastors that have told you this.
Well, I want to say that till the end. I need you to do me a favor, though.
What's that?
I need the power cord.
Okay.
Because remember my battery.
Okay.
My computer, y'all pray for my computer because I do need a new MacBook Pro. I do. The battery tends to go out, and then there's some other stuff going on with it. But anyway, I'm happy that you feel better. And that's what I wanted to do on here, to make someone feel better about their journey, not only with their mother, but also with the mother of their children. Santa on Instagram says, my daughter's mother has daddy issues because she met him, but I tried to be her rock, but she paints me as being controlling. And I'm like, what? I read that right. I know I did. So she was able, see, daddy issue. Oh, Santa, we've had that conversation. I just got off my US leg tour of I've got daddy issues because so many of us have daddy issues. And the thing that I learned on tour is those of us who have daddy issues also have mommy issues. And toxic mothers just happens to be what it is. And daddy issues control our relationships. Daddy issues dictate how we perceive our partners. Are they going to abandon us? That's called perceived abandonment. You can't trust anybody. You question every move that they make, all of those different things. It is an issue. We'll talk about that another time, and I promise you, just go onto our Facebook page and you'll see some daddy issue stuff. I will start the international leg in October. I'm going to London, and then I'll be heading to 4 countries in Africa doing I've Got Daddy Issues. And then next year we'll do I've Got Daddy Issues college tour, and I'll do a Canadian tour. Crazy enough, somebody hit me up about coming to Canada. So everybody's got daddy issues. But once again, those who have daddy issues also have mama issues. Y'all remember that. And Nadia, she says, I try so much to share insight with my mom, and I do love her, but she's hard-headed. I'm gonna go here because yeah, they think they know. And I tell my husband this, boys get it a little differently because my husband sets up boundaries with his mother just fine. And my brother sets up boundaries with my mother just fine. And she adheres to them. And when she doesn't, there's a little, he kind of taps her, not hits her, but he gives her a little, I ain't doing this with you. And he'll cut her off and it's no big deal. But I cut her off and it's like the end of the world. Boys get to maneuver differently with their mothers. And I don't know what that is. I read somewhere somebody saying it earlier, like we're best friends. So number 8 is you're her best friend or her closest confidant. That's a tactic that toxic mothers use. So be careful when your mama use that on you. And then when you ain't good, you ain't good. So that's number 8.
What was that?
You're her best friend and confidant. I'm trying to scroll without. Okay, so Beverly says, my mom used to be so negative to me. She told me I would never drive, but thank God I know how because of all of her children, she have had to ask me. Oh, my mom didn't find out I got raped until I was 28. I had to pray to God to love her. Oh, and she can tell you now, I think, that she loves you. Beverly, I don't know if my mother's mother ever told her that she loved her. I don't remember. Do you remember on that video if she ever said that? If she said that? If she did, it was on her. It was when she was dead. When she was on her deathbed.
Right. She called her a black bead almost every day.
Yeah, that was tough. And even when my grandmother was in the nursing home, senile, she called my mother a name, and I remember even my mother calling me, and she snapped back into like a teenage girl, like a little girl herself. She snapped into a little girl herself. She's like, "Do you think she meant that? Oh my gosh, she just called me." And it was the name that she'd always call her. And I don't want to say it. My husband said it, and maybe y'all heard it, but I'm not going to repeat it. Those moments break you and they shake you to the core. And to have a mother who tells you that she loves you, I think is very important, because having a parent who, especially a mother and a father, tell you that they love you, it makes it easier when you go out into the world and men or women say that they love you, and you're not dictated, or the relationship isn't predicated on whether or not they love you. My mother said in her video that when men would tell her that they loved her, that made her say, okay, well, we boyfriend and girlfriend then, basically. And so how do you do that? Like, how do you then, if your mother never told you that she loved you? One of the things my mother said that night too is, if your mother never said she loved you, mind you, my mother grew up in a 2-parent household. If your mother never told you that she loved you, how then can you believe that God loves you? That's the line my mother said on the video. And when you hear it, it's like, it takes the air out of you, because that's a very painful place to be. Shay says, parents are supposed to guide you to the point you can become your own person, not copies of them. That's what you got to tell a narcissistic person. Tasha says, you can break these curses once you are aware. Absolutely. Felix, I would love to be able to speak with you and have you provide consultation for myself. I got you. You got to inbox me on this page. You can inbox me and we can have that conversation. Tasha says, sorry about the typos. You can break it once you're with Tasha. I got you. I'm doing my best to read, but if not, we're working on it. Brian says, yes, I'm an alienated parent. Brian, I listen at those events. I'll be pulled left and right. I know I'm speaking, but I do listen. I understand that you're alienated, and I'm telling you, he says, I document everything, told my parents to do everything. Yeah, the goal is to document everything. He said, oh my God, you hit the nail on the head there. I got court on Tuesday the 19th, and I can't afford an attorney. Okay, Brian, inbox me. Let's talk, because I don't know exactly where you live. I think it's on the East Coast somewhere. Might be near DC. That's what I think. So inbox me and let me know. Mark Lynch says, my father is a preacher as well as a business partner, so it tends to negate a lot of the toxicity. That's why I'm able to skip a lot of the ones in the box. That's a good thing, Mark. But my mom swears that because she's the mom, it's my job to chase her and work on our relationship. But then treats my grandmother like poop. See? Double standard. Double standard. How does having a toxic mother impact relationships? I'm going to tell you this. Toxic mothers create dysfunctional, and it becomes how you connect with other people. So we attract who we are. One of my coaches, he was on here earlier. He says we attract who we are, not who we want to be, right? Not who we want. And if you are someone who grew up in this toxic life, in this toxic relationship, your mother's sitting here saying, oh, it's your job to chase her down and do this. Do you do that in your other relationships? Do you feel like you have to chase men down in your other relationships? And I want to know, I got a lot of comments and they're still coming. And this is clearly a conversation people wanted to have, and we could be on here all night, but I'm not going to be. These dysfunctional relationships really play out. And Tasha said it best. You have to be aware. I'm looking at my notes briefly here, and I don't want to go too deep because I want to deal with some of the stuff here. If we don't deal with the pain from our mother's past and our mother's relationships with their mothers, it will be passed down through generations. And the funny thing is, we live in a very patriarchal society, right? We live in a society that fathers are supposed to be the head of the household, but somehow mothers have become the head of the households. And when mothers are the head of the households in that way, they tend to dictate so much stuff. And they will use different tactics to lure you in and to cause you to question who you are and question yourself about all the stuff that's going on. Even looking at what Shay just wrote. The Bible says, honor thy mother and thy father, but children are humans too. Well, the problem, Shay, with that, and I'm not even going to finish just yet. I'm going to break this down bit by bit. The problem with that particular moment is it does say, honor thy mother and father, right? Honor thy parents. And it says so that your life can be long. And I've heard it preached too this way, where people say, you know what? It's the only scripture in the Bible where it can extend your life. So you got to honor thy mother. Well, look up what honor means. Honor does not mean taking crap from them. It doesn't mean that they get to onslaught you with all types of negative words and cuss words and say things to you that breaks you down. But the other part of that scripture, I want to pull it up. You gonna pull? You got it up?
No, something else. I will. Let me pull it up for you.
Honor thy mother and father so that thy life may be long. But the other end of that scripture, guess what it also says? The next line. Parents, provoke not your children to wrath. Okay?
Don't piss off your kids.
Don't make your kids, not only don't piss them off, but don't put your children in a position where they're dealing with all this stuff. So Shay, I like to deal with the scripture in context, right? Because what it's saying is, if you start ticking your kids off, as my husband say, piss your kids off, then they're probably not going to honor you. So let me tell you how I honor my mother. My mother, even though I haven't spoken to her in a year, she gets a birthday present. She gets a Christmas gift of some sort. She gets different things that I know.
And those are the things that are important to her.
Right, because I know what's important to my mother. I know getting something, cards, whatever that is in the mail, and I'm probably gonna send her one this week too.
That's some Avon stuff.
Yeah, my husband has some gifts that we've had off to the side to send to her. That's part of honoring that mother. It doesn't, or your parents. It doesn't mean you have to be in their direct line of sight for their sniper weapon. It doesn't mean that. It doesn't mean you have to do that. So she said, the children are humans too, and to give respect and love everyone must earn it in my eyes. I'm sorry, it's what I tell our followers. We are not required by any law to love blood, especially if blood shows no love or respect towards us. Family is who we choose. Okay, some people say family is blood, and what's the one? Family is blood, but then there's another one of who we choose. But Shay is like, no, I get to choose my family. I like that. I want to go. I don't want to miss anybody's comments because I think it's important. Kay says, same here with my mother and my brothers. Many narcissistic mothers play the best friend role until their child gets more attention. Then they turn on their, oh, Shay! Wow. And you bringing up stuff that I don't know if I want to share on social media. I ain't going to share that yet. Because I see some of my mama's friends on here too, and I ain't going to lie to y'all. They on here.
And you're only going to report back to her. Tell her I said hi.
It's not about even reporting. They get to see and understand why y'all don't see me that often. Like, my mother had an event at her house this weekend. I wasn't there. Number one, I wasn't even invited, but that's okay. We wouldn't have come anyway. So she probably knew that. Thank you. I have to get off of here, go to bed. Sharon, thank you for joining us. She's probably gone already. Yeah. You said goodnight to her. Yeah, Brian's in Maryland. I knew he was somewhere along there. She said, I love your show. She's in Smyrna. Well, I'm going to tell you, we do Healing Tuesdays every Tuesday night, and we do it because I recognize the fact that there's so many people who are growing up fatherless, growing up with different issues and concerns and things of that nature, that they need a night to vent. They need a night to get some tools on how to heal. So let me give you some of these things just because I know it's getting late and I don't want to continue to stay on here. So one of the things you got to do to deal with a toxic mother, it cut me off on here. You can only be on for an hour, I think, on Instagram. I'm going to. Listen to him. I'm not going to be on here another hour. We got bumped off, but hopefully Samuel will come back on. Let me tell you, you've got to set up the boundaries. If you do not set up the boundaries, you're going to find yourself in a very hard place. You're going to find yourself in a very dark place. Hey, Maya, she's been on here for a minute. You're going to find yourself in a place where you're constantly going to be hurt. Hey, Mo, how are you? You have to set up boundaries for your mother. And I want to make sure, she said, girl, I deal with this daily. Shay said that. I want to make sure that you understand setting up a boundary doesn't mean that you don't love your mother. It doesn't mean that you don't know how to honor your mother. It doesn't mean any of that. It means that you have to do this for yourself. So once again, I'm going to put the link to the book, Boundaries, in here, just the regular boundaries, because I want you to understand what it means to set up boundaries to your parents so that you're not dealing with the toxic behavior. You have to know that toxic mothers and people who use scripture are using it to manipulate you. That's one of the manipulation and guilt tools that I fell for well over 20 years. Toxic mothers must be really taboo. FB has kicked me off this live feed 3 times now. Did you see that?
No, I didn't.
Yeah.
She's still on. Shades taking care of her mom.
Is that what she said?
Mm-hmm.
She deals with it daily.
No. If you go back up.
Mm-hmm. I missed it somewhere.
I will say.
Oh yeah. You can heal. My mother abused me and my 2 sisters for decades. Nightmare stories that would break you. But even now, my mother lives with me, and I'm her caregiver. I come to forgive her, but she knows my boundaries. I do what I do because I feel the need to. I don't want to be like her and not care just because I felt no one cared about me. So let's go here, because someone said this to me earlier. You got to forgive your mother. Who said I haven't forgiven her? I'm not mad at her. I'm more hurt than anything that I can't have the relationship I would like to have. That's just really what it is. And so you should never assume, once again, that's guilt and how you put that on someone. You should never assume that someone who doesn't have a relationship with a toxic mother hasn't forgiven their mother. And if you haven't forgiven your mother for what she's done, that's step number 1. Let's go to that first. That's step number 1. Then we need to set up boundaries, because now you're going to have some type of relationship. I'm going to tell you what boundary is right now. My boundary with my mother is she can only contact me through my iMessenger on my computer. She can't call me. She can't email me. She can't hit me up on social media. There's no way that she can do it. Huh? Oh, and she can't call my husband. If she called my husband, it's going to be a problem. Because I know the mission in calling my husband. The mission in calling my husband is to sabotage. It's been done multiple times with other people. So we've been married a little over 5 years now. He called her for the first time last year.
3 times.
Yeah, through my phone. The only time he's talked to her really is through my phone and me calling. And then last year he called her for the first time. And then recently she called him like, oh, I was just checking to see whose number this was. No, she wasn't, y'all. We did it as a trap just to see what would happen. I'm not gonna lie to you, we did. But she waited a good year to call. So I was like, wow, that's pretty good. He said, I can't forgive or trust my daughter's mother, period. She kept me from my child, so I will not forgive.
Wow.
Santa, I get it, but you gotta forgive. Forgive does not mean that you forget what she's done. Forgiveness does not mean that you don't set up boundaries like I'm talking about. And the way that you get to that place of forgiveness is you have to understand her humanity through this process. That's the other part I want you guys to do. I'm adding some stuff that I didn't put in my notes, but I'm adding some things here because what causes me not to have a place of unforgiveness in my heart for my mother is I am very clear. I am very clear as to how she became who she is. And I don't feel pity for her. I have compassion and empathy for her. And I feel like, wow, she was an awesome mother in spite of all of that. She was a mother who provided. My mother, we didn't grow up poor. I grew up with a lot of stuff that I probably should have never had. I was a spoiled brat. My mother, knew how to show me her love through buying gifts and material things. And I get that that's how she showed her love. I don't question that at all. The challenge is, as an adult, some of the things that she's done that I just can't allow her to do to me. And so, Santa, I'm going to tell you, you just have to look at it and say, I can't allow you to do this to me. And I can't get over, in a sense, the fact that you hurt my child like this. But this is what I'm going to say. We're going to move forward. Hopefully she'll move forward. I'm going to talk to him over here. Hopefully she'll move forward where you can see your daughter and you can have a relationship with your daughter. And eventually then from that place, that's when you can start moving towards the forgiveness. I will tell you that some of the dads that I've worked with, the more they start working towards forgiveness, moms end up calling and saying, you know what, I'm really sorry. I'm really, really, really sorry that I did this. So maybe the first step for you is the forgiveness. You never know. Because I know it's got to hurt. Markland says, scripture, Post-it notes on the fridge or family group texts that are put into a negative context to fix the narrative being spun. Well, yeah, because too many people use the scripture to keep you in bondage to not only your mother's, but other situations as well. Tasha says, it's not my mother, it's the other family members as well, like sisters. Dysfunctional families are dysfunctional families. It was, my grandmother had 6 siblings. And so they have some of their own toxicity and dysfunctional relationships as well. Your mom must be jealous of you. Oh, Beverly, girlfriend. Another thing, I just don't know if I can have that conversation about this on social media tonight. I'm trying to keep my face halfway together by having this talk. I will say this, there was one moment when my mother and I were at home in Michigan, and we were talking about something, and she outright admitted that she was jealous of me. And then when it came up later, she was like, I never said that. Did you just cough in the background? You guys get my husband. Get him. So, and I don't want to say that she should be. She raised me. So the woman that I am has her fingerprints all over it. You know what I mean? So why should you be jealous? You did this by yourself in many ways. I saw Pamela Rowland on here, like put me in different groups like junior girls and gave me tutoring. And like, what my mother was the type of mother who could admit that she didn't know everything. So she would provide supplements to make sure I got the things that I needed that she couldn't provide. That's a pretty awesome mother growing up. But once you become an adult, as we talked about earlier, Kay was on here, she said it as well. It's tough. So let's go through some of the things that we talked about first. Forgiveness is first. Boundaries is second. And then you're going to need to seek a therapist to get some tools. I've gone to therapy. Andy is my therapist. And I remember Andy talking to me during premarital counseling. And he said, if you ever want to deal with that mama issue, I got you. Well, right after we got married, I showed up for probably 6 months, maybe a year worth of sessions. And the very first session, the conversation led into Andy telling me, you need to stay away from your mother. And I don't even know, honestly, I'm gonna go here. I don't even know how much of that was Andy versus it being God. We're not gonna go too deep into that. But I have multiple times been told by pastors and ministers, you gotta let it go. You gotta let it go. It's hard to let go of your mama. It's hard. Because you want to have that relationship. You long for that relationship. You not only long for the relationship, you long for the acceptance that should come with the relationship. You long for the mother saying how proud of you she is versus Beverly versus her saying how jealous of you she is. You long for it. Meeting my father was a great thing that happened to me. Filled a lot of voids that I had. But I would love for my mother to accept me for the awesome woman that I am. And that's the text that I sent her. Can you just say that you're proud of me and that I'm awesome? And that's when she was like, you've been doing great, beep, 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 since this B gave birth to you, B-I-T, like called me names and all of that. And we have the proof of it. So if she ever tries to say she didn't say it, because she will, we have the text. I would love for that to happen. So my time apart in a way, is for me to grow so that I can be okay with not getting the acceptance from her. Do you see the difference? Do you see how that is what you need to do? You don't need to try to change them or make them someone else. You can pray that those things happen. And if they happen, fantastic. But it's about you growing. And so I now am in a position where it's about me stepping away to grow me so that I don't need her acceptance. I don't need her to say that she's proud of me. I'm tearing up now. I don't need her to fill that void. Because at the end of the day, this is something I have to do for me. It's not about her. It's not about her. Mine said, yes, yes, yes. Okay, so Shay says, forgiveness, boundaries, understanding who your mother is as a person, not as a mother. That's very important. Then grow in healing. But this, I'm not saying, I'm not conditioning, but you are allowing your own mind to sit in peace that they are always trying to destroy. And it's a destructive thing that they do. And I don't even know if they know they're doing it half the time, y'all. I don't know if they know. I see Lauren on here. Hey, Lauren. Brian had to run. I'm not trying to leave. I am going to get off of here in a second. I'm listening to some of these. But always tell me I need to fix myself. Like, no, you need to fix yourself. I'm not saying that I'm not saying that she doesn't need to fix herself. Brian, I want you to focus on you. And I'm not telling you did anything wrong, but you just heard me say, my focus for me is that I'm able to deal with who she is. I'm able to maneuver without needing the acceptance. I know you need the mother of your children some way, somehow, to get in line so that you can see your daughter. I think it is your daughter or your daughters. That's important. So I don't want you to negate. See, with fathers who are dealing with toxic mothers of their children, it's really, really hard to heal your part of the journey because what they're doing is so crazy. The punishment doesn't fit the crime. They're upset because you broke up with them. They're upset because you've moved on. They're upset because you didn't give them the promise. They're upset because they were raised that men weren't even necessary, inconsequential to the raising of the children. They're upset for various reasons. However, as I told one of my clients earlier, I know you love your child, and he went into all of that, and then he said, but I saw the signs, and I said, exactly. So I know you wish that you would have not that you don't want the child, but you wish you would have jumped ship before that happened, because now you have to deal with some of the stuff that you didn't want to deal with. That's why you broke it off. I know plenty of guys who broke up and then find out, guess what? She's pregnant. Dang. Not that you don't love the children. And then it's taken out on you that, oh, you didn't want the baby, and oh, you wanted me to have an abortion. And I can tell you, ladies, that's a horrible thing. That's a horrible game to play with someone. Maybe they saw something in you that they were like, I didn't want to have the relationship with you. And now I'm going to be tied to you for 18, 20 plus years. And it's really a lifetime. Because y'all always say, oh, I had 18 years. No, you got way longer than that. Now you have this with this toxic mother who was raised by a toxic mother, who only understands what it's like to be a toxic mother. And she doesn't think you are necessary, because guess what? She was raised without her father, and she, in her mind, whether it's delusional or not, is just fine. So now you have to deal with that. Kay said, I was very angry until I explored my mommy and daddy issues. I'm so much better, but there's still work to do. You can see I run this foundation and there's still work to do. Linda says, I know they don't know. Moms don't know. Oh, Nydia like Lydia. Okay, thank you. Was you a daddy's girl? I was. That's why my mom, and I don't get along. Beverly, I hope this comment isn't too far gone, but no, I was not, because I didn't grow up with my father. I met my father at 31. But after meeting my father, it turned south real quick. It didn't. She didn't like the fact that I met she didn't like the fact that I met my father. And not only that I met him, but that I do this work and I honor him in doing the work. I really want my mother to see that I honor both of them in doing this work. But once again, that acceptance piece may never come, and I have to be okay with it. Let's go here. No, you're right. They don't see the wrong. I tell people your truth is yours and mine is mine. Yeah, people always try to make it like, oh, that's your mother. You need to make it right. And then you believe them and go back and get knocked in the face, get all your teeth, your grill busted out. And fathers do it all the time too. He says she has a sense of entitlement. You have to because I'm your child's mother. Actually, he don't, girlfriend. He don't have to do nothing because of that. And then she says, I'm here. Once I've seen this lesson, I've realized my mother, my husband, ex-wife, and ex-girlfriend, who he has children with, didn't see their wrongdoings. It's not their minds. It's not in their mindset to see, sadly, children are involved and they become the victims. Absolutely. We have to pay attention to these things. But my tips for you tonight on how to heal from them is forgiveness. Find out who your parents are as people. They were men and women before they were your mother and father, right? And it'll lead you to a lot of different things that you need to know for you and how to break generational curses. That's forgiveness. Learning who they are is number 2. It's like 1 and 2, because probably not going to forgive them and have empathy for them until you know who they were as people. And then number 3, setting up those boundaries. It's very important. Setting up the boundaries. If you do not set up boundaries for toxic people, you will find yourself in a world of hurt. You'll find yourself suicidal. You'll find yourself, as we talked about, paralyzed earlier. You will find yourself in depression. You can find a chemical imbalance in your brain to go off, because eventually all that trauma is eventually going to take you to places in your mental health that you do not want to be. I always say my problem with people who are supposed to take pills is they don't take them, making me have to take them. So I think it's very important that people who have toxic mothers, one of my stipulations right now is I will not talk to my mother until she takes her medication. And she makes fun of it. It's a joke to her. But I won't talk to her until she takes her medication. She just don't want to take it.
Or at least give something to you.
I'm not taking it. Okay. I don't need any my brain ain't crazy. She needs to take that medicine. She bipolar. She needs to take it. It's just what it is. And I'm not calling her. See, some of y'all throw around words like that and there ain't no doctor said anything. Diagnosed. She ain't gonna like this video because she all up in. I'm made her Diddy. She all up in the video. So some people know what I'm talking about.
Just 3 points you give.
What?
Forgiveness. I'm sorry.
Forgiveness.
Just the 3.
No, and then seek a therapist for tools is the 4th one. Seek a therapist for tools is the 4th one. So forgiveness, get to know who your parents are, set up boundaries, and seek a therapist for tools. And let's add the bonus. You're doing this for you. You have to step away from the relationship so that you respond and react differently to the relationship. Do not put yourself in the situations that I've been in. My response was not good. My response would get me into trouble. My husband said I cussed her smooth out. I did not cuss her smooth out.
No, I don't think it was that smooth. It was rough.
It was not.
Bush.
I don't believe that. I don't believe I did that. I might have done that when I got off the phone with her, but I don't believe I did that with her on the phone. Just FYI. Yeah, I think he's running stuff into each other, because I still, with everything in me, try to be very respectful towards my mother. So I'm kind of going back on something we talked earlier. Linda said it is so hard when they have no sense of awareness. Then you realize it is all you. She's going to realize one day she probably didn't like him leaving her, so she abused you because you're a part of him. Well, Beverly, like I said earlier, my childhood was amazing. And one day we'll talk about my parents' relationship. I think we did a pretty decent job on that interview as well, about how they met up and what that relationship was like. But no, she didn't abuse me growing up. She waited until I was an adult to kind of throw me into this monkey wrench, which has been challenging to say the least, because I don't know how to deal with it. Thank you, love. I'm going to pin these comments to the top. I hope you guys got something out of this tonight. Sometimes you got to get free. I think this is the time. Oh, Kate heard you talking about Nutbush in the background. Did you see that? See, you a problem. My goal is to make sure that people heal. That's my goal. I want people to understand and say, so next week I'll do some parental alienation. One of the things I am going to do, and I said this earlier, I want to kind of get you guys prepared for Thursdays at 1 p.m. It's in the afternoon, so maybe once you get back from your lunch break, or you're sitting at your desk at work, or you tune in on a replay. Thursdays we're going to provide resources. We're going to put experts on here other than myself, because I can talk to you about healing from your father wound all day long. Mommy wound, I'm still working that out. And no matter what, my husband will tell you, when I'm texting my brother, I still call her mommy. I still call her mommy. That's just who she is to me. She's still my mommy. And it's crazy that I even have to say it like that. But tonight I think was special. I think it was important to have this dialogue. I see all of the engagement in the comments. I am grateful for you guys to join in and even have, your life put out on Front Street in ways that hopefully thousands and hundreds of thousands of people will see it and recognize that they too have mommy issues. It's important that as you go through life, you do not suppress these things. You do not act like they are not happening. You have to acknowledge them, because acknowledgement is the first step to healing. We have to reveal it. As Tasha said earlier, we have to reveal it in order to heal it. And Tasha, I'm still telling you, post that link to purchase your book in the comment section. You may get some sales tonight, girlfriend. So I'm trying to help you out here. Once you post it in there, because for your son to spend 40 years in prison and you to write this book and talk about the toxic mother that you were, thank you so much for joining in and even being vulnerable enough to share that with us on here. Sano, I'm grateful that you tuned in here. And he said, I really don't know how to forgive her, but I'll try. It's a prayer, and it's a peeling back of an onion every single day. It does not happen immediately. It will be a process that you have to go through maybe for years to come. But taking the first step to just saying out of your mouth, I forgive her, is going to be one of the most important things that you've ever done. And I love what Shay says here. She says, remember, you are not alone in this. You are not alone. That's what's important. And you're not alone, Sano. There are plenty of fathers who've been alienated. And I promise you, we're going to have a talk about that. I know some experts in that field. I've been blessed to call some of them friend. I've been blessed, even more blessed to call some of them my mentors. So I look forward to talking to you guys next Tuesday night. We may do a part 2 to this. I'm going to look at some of the comments. I'm going to break some of this down and see where we go. But I'm grateful that you tuned in. So look forward to, yep, see, Beverly says, I got to get that book. Tasha, I'm going to hit you up and tell you to put that link in this box, because I don't see her on here anymore. Thank you guys so much. Every Tuesday night at 9 p.m. Sometimes I come on a little later because my computer be giving me a little trouble. But I'm on here every Tuesday night for Healing Tuesdays. We talk about everything from clearly toxic mothers to parental alienation to father and daddy issues to whatever it is that you're having, relationship issues, whatever that is. Maybe we should talk about how to fix your picker, because some of us be picking wrong people. We pick wrong people simply because we don't know who to pick. We don't pick the right people because we've been taught so many dysfunctional things. But once again, I am Dr. Tori J. I am the founder and CEO of the Fatherless Generation Foundation. I am an author, a speaker, and to one of my friends that's on here, I'm a superhero. And I like to say that every now and then. And so I thank you guys for tuning in tonight. It was very special. It was a different kind of moment for me. I'm super special. I feel like it was super special. I'm sorry, I saw my friend on here who was on here. She said loved it. You guys have a great night, and I'll see you next Tuesday. All right, bye-bye.